Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's DAF. Bava Metzia and Aleph, we are holding 4 lines off the top of the Amid. Ika de Masni Laha, there were some who applied Rav Huna's lesson, they had a different version. Ika de Masni Laha de Rav Huna, aha. That Rav Huna stated his statement on the following point, in contrast to yesterday's version, the Tana of Yosef. So Rav Huna basically was saying that we're discussing receiving interest payments from a guy. So yesterday we had one version, and today comes another version, the Tana of Yosef. So Rav Yosef presents a brisa based on a pasuk in Kesev Talves Ami Yesa'ani Imach. The Torah is instructing us to lend money as Ami to one of our nation, as Ha'ani, a poor man, Imach, who's with you, who's close to you. The Torah here is denoting that a hierarchy is in place. There's a system of priorities in terms of who you're supposed to lend your money to. So you have a choice. Ami v'nachri, one of our nation, or a guy. Who do you lend it to? Ami koidim, first comes a yid. Likewise, ani v'asher, poor man or wealthy man. Ani koidim, poor man's first. Ani yecha. V'ani ircha, you have a poor relative versus a poor man from your city. Who gets first priority? Ani yecha koidim, first comes your relative. Rashi says this is because it says imcha, right? And imcha means hakreven lecha, the ones that are closer to you are meant to be looked after first. And finally, aniyei ircha v'aniyei ir acheres. You have aniyim locally and aniyim of a different town. Aniyei ircha koidman, first come the aniyim of your local town. Amar Mar, let's go back to one point, which was, if you're faced with a choice between Ami v'nachri, a yid or a guy, Ami koidem, a yid gets priority. Pshita, well obviously you have a chiyuv, you have a mitzvah to a yid, to sustain a yid. I mean, isn't that obvious? Amar Rav Nachman, Amar li Huna. Oh, says Rav Nachman, Huna, my friend Huna, Rav Huna, explain to me. Well, Nitzracha, the brisa must be addressing a chiddush. Even if he's faced with a choice between lending money with interest to a guy who's going to pay him full interest versus lending money to a Yisrael for free of charge, he must give the Yisrael priority even at the expense of the interest that he's not going to be getting. Now the Chavetz Chaim and Sefer Abbas Chesed writes, this is only pertaining to a person whose livelihood is not based on lending with interest, but if he's a banker, and this is what he said, in that case, he need not forego this, this business opportunity. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Boyurei, come have a look. Samyus a name shalmavi beribis, the blindness of the of those who lend with interest, who seem oblivious to their own fallacies. Look, Adam Kure the Chaver Rasha. Imagine a fellow is called Rasha by his friend. That really gets him infuriated. He'll even go and interfere with his livelihood. He'll be so incensed. And look what every person, a person who's lending with ribis, you know what he does? He's proclaiming his fallacies in public. V'heim, Mevi'in, Eidim, right? So a person who's lending with interest, he sits down and he formalizes the agreement with witnesses, v'lavlor, and a scribe to author the shtar, v'kolmus, and a quill, v'dyoy, and ink, and they sit and they write and they sign. What are they signing? That he's lending him with ribis, which in effect is in contrast to the Torah and to the emunah that we have, that all money is from Hashem and we're meant to follow Hashem's instructions. Plain is that this individual here, Kafar B'Elokei Yisrael, he's denying Hashem's existence. You have extra money, it's Hashem's money. It was meant to be used for acts of kindness. meant to lend without ribbis. And you go ahead and you deny that reality, deny Hashem's existence, so to speak, and you're involved with ribbis. So when he's incriminated by somebody else, he gets all incensed. But then he goes ahead, turns around, and he publicly declares his denial in reality. Tanya, Reb Shimon Elazar Eimer, Kol mi sheyesh lo mois u'ma va'osim shalei b'ribbis. On the other hand, if a fellow has some extra money, and he's willing to lend it without interest, all of because of Eimer, on him the pasuk says, Kasper lo nasam beneshech, v'sheichad al noki lo lokach. He's honest with his money, a man of integrity. He doesn't take ribbis, doesn't take bribes. These individuals, they will not falter forever. So what do we learn from here? Apparently we see that person who does get involved with ribbis, his wealth disintegrates. Says the Gemara. So the diuk is, says Rashi, because only these individuals will not falter, but otherwise a person will falter. But we find that at times even those who refrain, they don't lend with ribbis, and still they have a hard time financially, they fall apart. Amar Rabbi Lazar, it's just temporary dip. These individuals, they fall but they get up. As opposed to those who are involved with ribbis, it's an eternal disaster. Lama tabet beidim tachrish kevala Russia tzaddik mimenu. Hashem, why are you observing? Why are you allowing the rebellers when they swallow up the Russia swallows up the tzaddik who's greater than him? So we have a diuk. A Russia can only affect a tzaddik who's higher than him, who's greater than the Russia, but a perfect tzaddik, such as a person who withstands the temptations of ribbis. This tzaddik will not falter permanently. Tzaddik mimenu, Amar Rafuna, tzaddik mimenu b'leah. The Russia at times can affect a tzaddik who stands higher than the Russia, but tzaddik gomer, perfect tzaddik eine b'leah, will not happen to him. And Rashi explains again, even though you'll find that he's mismited, very often everybody has a dip and financial hardship, but it's not la'olam. Ve'ena nivla la'olam. Eventually he'll get it back up on his feet. Tanya Rabbi Eimer. I have two kashas. Geret Tzedek. When the Torah references a true ger, ha'amr l'inin mechir, when it comes to selling of the Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave. So I have a reference to a Geret Tzedek. V'geret Toshev ha'amr l'inin ribbis. And likewise, when it comes to the halachas of ribbis, the Torah references a Geret Toshev, a guy who's adhering to some mitzvahs, he refrains from avodah zarah. So these two references in the Torah, I'm not sure exactly what their meaning is, and this one the Gemara explain what the difficulty involved is. So number one off the bat is Ger Tzedek. We have a yid will be going through financial hardships, he'll sell himself as a slave. And at times, not only will he submit himself to a Jewish owner, even to a ger. He'll sell himself to a ger, shenem al ger, v'lo ger tzedek, not only to a regular ger, el ger teish, even a ger teish, shenem al ger teish. The person continues mishpachas, he sells himself to a family of a ger. What is that? Zanachri, to a guy. The pasuk continues, the actual, what does the actual mean? The actual avodah zarah. He sells himself to a church, as a caretaker of a base avodah zarah. Okay, so that's the brisa. Now comes the difficulty. So he'll sell himself to a ger. Okay, do you mean to say that a ger can purchase an Eved Ivri? He doesn't have the ability to do so. So number one, a ger cannot sell himself as an Eved Ivri. And likewise, a isha or a ger cannot acquire an Eved Ivri. And the Gemara explains why. Why can't a ger be sold as an Eved Ivri? It says after his period of work, he goes back to his family. Well, he's not going back to his family a goyim. So that's not applicable. So the whole idea of a ger is not applicable by Eved Ivri. On the other hand, they can't acquire an Eved Ivri. for different reasons. Isha shouldn't be buying an Eved Ivri. Lavarach Ara, it's not appropriate because of Yichud issues. Ger Nami, likewise a Ger shouldn't be purchasing. Gemiri, because we have a halacha, a very set formula. The Makni Kani, the Le Makni Le Kani. That a fellow who can sell himself as an Eved Ivri, he can acquire an Eved Ivri as well. Right? The Mikne Kani. But the Le Mikne, a person such as a Ger who cannot sell himself as an Eved Ivri, as we said before, like Kani, he doesn't have the right or the power to acquire an Eved Ivri either. So, back to our question, why does the Torah allude to a Yisrael selling himself to a Ger, who apparently doesn't have the ability to be an Eved Ivri? Amar Nachmar Yitzchak, Eina Koine V'dini Ki Yisrael. Although a Ger can acquire, he could acquire an Eved Ivri, but not in the same context as a Yid owning an Eved Ivri. Eina Koine V'dini Ki Yisrael, he can't purchase an Eved Ivri and follow the rules of a Yisrael, who basically would pass on the Eved Ivri to his children if he passes on. Aval Kaine V'dina Kenachri. But he can buy an Eved Ivri and he'll have the same din as a guy who buys an Eved Ivri, who doesn't have the ability to pass on the Eved Ivri to his kids after he passes away. The Sanyas, we have a Brisa denoting this distinction between a Jewish owner and a non-Jewish owner. Haneritza, Vanim Kalei Nachri, a person who's past the Ritzia stage where they bore his ear after the 6 years, right? Vanim Kalei Nachri, or if he has a non-Jewish owner, if the owner passes on, the Eved Ivri does not transfer to the children. Amamar, let's go back to one more point that we mentioned. Bein Isha v'ger koinin Eved Ivri. So nor an Isha or a Ger can purchase an Eved Ivri. Neima de loy k'Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. It seems that this halacha, that we block out an Isha as an Eved owner, is not going to conform with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Listen, Isha koines hashvachos ve'eina koines avadim. Although an Isha can acquire maidservants, but not avadim. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel leimer af koines avadim. Even avadim she can acquire. Oh, so there you go. Says the Gemara, filu tema Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, even according to his shita, it's gonna work. V'leikasha, depends what. Kan be'eved ivri, the Isha is forbidden from purchasing an Eved Ivri. Kan be'eved Kanani. However, an Eved Kanani, a non-Jewish slave, that she can acquire. The Gemara explains why. Because by the Eved Ivri, it increases the inappropriateness factor. Eved Ivri Tzniela, because he's a modest person, he's a quiet person. And if they do anything wrong, he's not going to publicize it. So that entails a greater risk of wrongdoing. As opposed to Eved Kanani, he's going to publicize Paritzla. So there, she wouldn't dare getting involved with him inappropriately. So there's no issue of inappropriateness. Says the Gemara, Elaha. Ha the Tan Rav Yosef. So what about Rav Yosef's halacha? Armalta, a woman who's a widow, Lo tarbi kalba, she should not be raising a dog because she might get involved with him inappropriately. Tishri babrei Rav ushpiza nor. Should she put up a yeshiva man in her home? So Bishleim Babi Rav, I understand why a yeshiva student is an issue, because Tniela, he'll keep things quiet and therefore there's an issue of inappropriateness. Ela Kalba, but when it comes to a dog, there, if one gets involved physically with a dog, even the Masrachba, he'll be, lagging behind her. That's just the nature of things. So if there's any involvement, he's going to sort of be attached to her. Mirsha says that would present an element of fear and dissuade her from being involved with the kelev, lest her actions be known. So what's the issue with that? Why can't she raise a dog? Right? There's that built-in deterrent. Says the Gemara, Amri, the answer is because there's another reason why a dog might be following this person. Masrach basra. If she throws to umtza, a piece of meat. Right? So that also generate that sort of lagging. So Amri, people, when they would see this dog following her, they'll attribute it to the fact that she fed him, mishum umtza, the shadileh, because of this food that she threw to him, who the masrach, that's why it's happening. So there's no deterrent factor, and therefore it should be avoided. living with raising a dog should be avoided for the almana. Okay, so bottom line, we got a kasha. How come the pasuk and the brisa discusses an eved ivri being sold to a ger? I thought a ger can't own an eved ivri. The answer is he could own him, but not in the same way that a Yisrael owns him. Regarding an isha owning an eved, well, the Gemara says it depends on what situation, and all depends on the deterrent factors involved. And the point is to try to avoid any inappropriate conduct. Ger Toshev, Ha'omer L'inyan Ribis Mahi. So Rebbe said to us two things. I don't fully understand Ger Tzedek by Mechiras Eved, and number two, the reference to a Ger Toshev when it comes to Ribis Mahi. So what was he referring to? We have a pasuk. So if your fellow Jew is having a hard time financially, prop him up, support him. Ger V'Toshev V'Chayimach. Right, whether he's a regular citizen or ger. Right? Al tigach meitoi neshech v'tarbis v'chei achicha imcha. Okay? So basically, refrain from charging him interest, v'chei achicha imcha, and support him financially. So, what is the pasuk telling us? That even a ger Toshev should not be paying you ribis, right? We have a kasha from our Mishnah. You can have an interest transaction with a guy and with a ger Toshev as well, right? Loivin man, malvanoisen, ribis, v'chein ger Toshev. How does that fit with the Mishnah, with the pasuk? Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak. Take a closer look at the pasuk again. Miksiv al tigach mi'itam. Sure, initially the pasuk references a yid, achicha, right, and a ger Toshev. But finally, when it makes the mentioning of ribis, don't take ribis. It doesn't say from them. I'll take me'itam, me'itoi. Don't take from him, me'Yisrael, only from a yid. But by the ger Toshev, ribis is not an issue. And the mentioning of a ger Toshev in this pasuk, says Rashi, is for the second part. V'chei achicha imcha. Support him, feed him. That's your obligation. But ribis, with respect to ribis, he doesn't have a din of a yid. Tanu Rabbanan, al tigach mi'ita neshech v'tarbis. So don't accept all forms of ribis payments from a borrower. Avol atanasa loy arev. But you can present as an arev, as a guarantor, to a yid, apparently to a yid who is going to be paying ribis. Well, says the Gemara, how can that be? Arev Laman, who am I guaranteeing here? Ilema Arev Yisrael, is the fellow being an Arev for Yisrael borrowing from another Yisrael? How can he do that? V'atanan, we have a Mishnah. All those players are violating Isurim. Elu Eivrim B'Lisase, the following individuals have violated Eloisase for being involved in an interest arrangement. Hamal, the lender, Alev, the borrower, Ha'arev, even the Arev, the guarantor, V'Edim, and the witnesses who signed the document. So how is that allowed? Elul a Yisrael borrowed from a guy who can lend with ribis, and the Arev here is backing up that loan. How can he do that? He's intricately involved in this loan, and it's like he's paying the ribis. You know why? Since the system by the goyim it's different than by us. By them, the malve doesn't initially approach the borrower. He goes straight to the Arev, and the Arev first pays up the lender and then goes to the leiva, who in this case is a yid, and gets compensated for paying off his loan and the interest. So in effect, the Arev is collecting interest from a yid. It's like the Arev took the money from the guy, lent it to the yid. He's like a middleman. He took that money for himself, lent it to the yid, and now comes payday, he's going to pay the guy, and then he's going to turn around and collect from the yid. So, in effect, he's collecting ribis from his loan to the Yisrael. Right? Since by the goyim, their system works like this. The Azal Wasal Arba, they go straight to the Arev. And the Arev turns around and collects from the Leiva. So it's like the Arev personally is collecting ribis from the Yid. Amar Rav Sheshes. Why is it allowed? In this case, the guy submitted himself to the Jewish system. That, no, I'm not going to target the Arev first. I'm going to go first to the Loiva. And as a backup, I'll go to the Arev. So the Arev isn't really technically the borrower. The Yisrael is borrowing from the Goy. And if in fact the Yisrael defaults on his loan, the Arev will have to step in reluctantly and lay out that money. And it's like he's lending them. It's like he's starting. It's like a new phase. It's like he's right now lending X amount to the guy, the principal plus interest. Right? It's like he's paying that to the guy. It's like he's lending that amount to the Yisrael, the borrower, and he turns around, he collects that from the Yisrael. Right? So in this case, there's no ribbis involved between the Yisrael and the other Yisrael, because when the Arev is compelled to pay up that defaulted loan, which is, let's say, $1 million plus interest, so he pays off the $1 million plus 100,000 to the guy, that constitutes a loan right now, going forward to the Yisrael borrower, and he turns around and he collects that amount from the Yisrael. Look, I lent you that amount, I'm collecting that amount. So since the guy was willing to go along with this system, right? Initially we figured he's following the standard secular system where the Arev is a central player. He's the one that's considered like the borrower and turned around and lent that money to the Yisrael. And eventually if he takes interest on that, it's like he's taking interest from his own loan. No! He's following the Yisrael system, the Torah system. The Leiv is responsible. If he defaults, okay, then the Arev steps in. He lays out the full amount, principal plus interest, and turns around and collects that from the Yisrael. That's perfectly fine. Because it's like he lent him that greater amount. It's not on account of delaying the payment. I'm lending you this full total amount now, principal and interest. I'm paying to the guy on your behalf. I'm turning around and collecting that from you. Says the Gemara, well, if the guy is submitting himself to the Torah system, then he shouldn't be taking interest. If he accepted upon himself to follow the Din of Yisrael or ribbis, why is he taking ribbis? Amar of Sheshes, he did it selectively. He was makal himself to follow this element of the Torah system, that his claim rests primarily on the Loiva, not the Arev, but he conveniently ignored the other element of our system, which forbids taking ribbis. Okay, back to the Mishnah. What does this all mean? Tana Rabban. Malvi Yisrael mo'isav shal nachri midas ha-nachri. Avaloi midas Yisrael. Ketzah. Okay, how does this work? Yisrael shalava mo'is min ha-nachri b'ribis. Okay, so Ruvain took out a loan from a guy with interest. Okay, fine. Ubikesh nachzirim loi. Comes due date. He'd like to give it back to the guy. He's going to repay everything to the guy. Mitzvah Yisrael Acher, he meets another Yid in the street, Shimon, who notices he's about to repay the guy. V'amarle tells tells his friend Reuven, you know what? Namely, why don't you give it to me? Right. So instead of repaying the guy, give it to me in the meantime, and I'll pay it all off to the guy. V'aniel lecha, and I'll repay you the full amount, including the interest that you're about to pay the guy, right? So he borrowed 100 from the guy, he's repaying 150, give it all to me, and I'll take care of it. The same amount that you were going to give to the guy, I'll repay you. So is this okay? No, answer. You're not allowed to do this. Why? Because technically, he's borrowing from his friend Reuven. It's still Reuven's money. It hadn't yet reached the guy's hands. So in effect, Reuven is lending him the 100 and getting back the 150 from his friend Shimon. V'im hamidai etzel nachri mutter. But let's say the the borrower, the initial borrower, the original borrower, Reuven, went back to the guy and sort of gave it back to the guy, or he didn't physically give it back to him, we'll see that in a minute. He offered it back to the guy, and he made it ready for the guy. He prepared it for the guy. He says, look, I have the money, I have your money, informed him that he has his money, and suggested that, perhaps we can, and the guy agreed to lend it to the other fellow. Then it's considered the guy's halva. The guy is actually lending it. If you attribute it back to the guy, then it's okay. Because the guy is now turning around lending it to Shimon with interest. That's okay. It's like Reuven is, representing the guy now. So if he just turns around and gives it to Shimon without informing the guy, then it's Reuven's loan to Shimon with interest. But if he informed the guy and he's doing it upon the guy's instructions, that's okay. And likewise, on the flip side, a guy borrowed from Reuven with ribbis. He's about to repay it. Then Shimon meets the guy in the street and he goes through the same conversation. He says, namely, let me have the money, and I will repay you the same amount that you were going to repay to the Yid with the interest. That's mutter, because again, here it works to the Yisrael's favor because it's still the guy's money, so it's a transaction between the guy and the Yid. But v'mamideh to Yisrael, but if it's connected to the owner, and the guy is simply following the Yisrael owner's instructions, representing the Yisrael, right? So you inform the Yisrael, look, here's your money back. Should I pass it on to your friend Shimon? In that case, it's usher because Shimon is dealing directly, so to speak, with the owner, Yisrael, and paying him interest. So Bishleim Maseifa l'chumra. So here in the second part of the Brisa, we seem to have a chumra. You see, really, it's only a chumra midrabanan. Why? Rashi explains because, what was the story? The guy borrowed from the Yid. He's about to pay it back. And we say, look, if he does it on his own volition, that's fine. But if he informed the Yisrael and he's sort of following the Yisrael's instructions, which in effect makes him like a shliach, like an agent, and we know that a guy cannot be a shliach, because the concept of a shliach is learned from truma. It says, atem gam atem, you or your agent can do the truma on your behalf. So that's only by a Yid. You have to be b'nei bris, you have to be a Yid. A guy is not connected to shlichus. So the fact that we consider this guy as representing the Yisrael owner, which makes it problematic, which makes it an issue of ribbis, because in effect the Yisrael owner is lending with ribbis by way of the guy. So the fact that we consider the guy a shliach is a chumrah. It's a chumrah midrabanan. It's a stringency that we consider him a shliach, although midarais is not a shliach. So Bishlam is safe for the chumrah. We understand that the issue in the second part of the brisa is just a chumrah. Elareisha. What about the first part of the brisa, where we learn that if the Yisrael borrowed the money and he went back to the lender, the guy, and he instructed him and he informed him about the fact that he wants to repay it, and there's Yisrael waiting on the wings, wants to borrow, we say, look, if the guy is sending the Yisrael to lend this money, so he's representing the guy, it's okay. But how could we say a Yid is representing a guy? That means you're giving the guy a power of shlichus. If a guy doesn't have the power to appoint a shliach, so the Yid is not representing a guy, the Yid himself is the one that's dealing with the other borrower and he's accepting ribbis. The answer is, Hacham Skin was speaking that he's not really being a shliach of the guy. Kigain, the Amarle was speaking that the guy told the borrower, the Yisrael, you know what? Put it down on the floor, and that's enough. I consider that to be repayment. So you've returned the money to me, and now the other Yisrael, the Shimon fellow, the new borrower, picked it up off the floor, and that's considered you're taking the guy's money directly from the guy. So there's no shliach, there's no agent. It was a direct deal between the guy and the new borrower, and that's fine. Remember, if that's the case, it's so simple, why even discuss it? Elamar Papa rather says Rav Papa was speaking that the guy actually took it back from the first borrower from the Israel, Shenata, V'nasa, and gave it back to the Israel, who turned around and gave it to his friend Shimon. So again, in this case, he's not a shliach. He's just simply passing it over from the guy to the yid. And of course, that's considered the guy lending the money. So even that, it's such a simple case. Why even discuss it? Of course, it's a legal. It's fine. Says wrong with the tema. Perhaps I would think it's not so simple. Nachri gufei, the guy himself, ki avid. The only reason why he did this is adopted the Israel kagamar v'yoav. It was based on the Israel, Israel's advice and the Israel's doing. He was just going along with the Israel. It's like the guy was a shliach of the Israel. He was just doing the Israel's bidding. Reuven, the first borrower's bidding, and we should consider it like Reuven's deal with Shimon. Kamashman, the point is no. No. The fact is, technically the money was returned to the Goyish owner. It's considered a brand new loan between the Goy and Shimon. Rav Ashi Amar, I'll give you another teretz. How could the Israel represent the Goy? How could he be a shliach of a Goy? To hand it to his fellow Israel? When do we say a Goy is not connected to shlichus, can't appoint an agent? That only pertains to taking off truma. So a guy cannot be a shliach regarding truma, but when it comes to other halachas, a guy can appoint a shliach or become a shliach. And that explains why the Yisrael can be representing the guy in terms of lending his money. And this statement of Rav Ashi is unacceptable. Why? Why can't the guy be involved in truma? Atem gam atem, right? You can take off the truma and your agents, and we connect the two things. Atem is a reference to Yisraelim, right? Ma'atem b'nei bris, just like you are part of the covenant, you are of the Jewish nation. Av shluchach nami b'nei bris, your agents as well have to conform to that criteria. So we know that by truma, being a gir is a precondition. Shlichus t'chol Torah kula nami mitruma gamrinal. Guess what? How do we even know throughout the whole Torah that shlichus works from truma? So it has to follow the same guidelines. It has to be a yid. Ela de Rav Ashi berusahi. Rather, we don't accept Rav Ashi's distinction. Ikadamri, there's another version of Rav Ashi. Ki amrina ein shlichus al nachri. When do we block out a guy from shlichus? Hanemili inu l'didan. That's only pertaining they being a shliach for us. They can't represent a yid. Aval an l'didu. But if a yid wants to represent a guy, such as in our story where the first borrower, Reuven, wants to represent the owner and lend his money to Shimon, Havina lu shliach, we can become a shliach for the guy. And once again, the Gemara disputes this distinction. V'hadar Rav Ashi b'rusahi maishna. Because what's the difference? Inu l'didan delay. Why can't a guy be a shliach for a yid? T'chsiv atem gam atem l'rabbi shluchachem, because of that pasuk, which requires belonging to the Jewish nation. Ma'atem b'nei bris, av shluchachem b'nei bris. Anan l'didu nami. Same thing on the flip side, right? Just like a guy cannot serve as a shliach, he cannot appoint a shliach. Why? It says atem, you are going to appoint a shliach. Who are you? Yisrael. Ma'atem b'nei bris kama, right? It says you, the atem, you're going to appoint a shliach. Who are you? Yisrael. Elo the Rav Ashi Brusi. Rather, we disregard Rav Ashi's distinction. Finally, says Ravina, I'll give you another teretz. What was the question? How could Reuven, the first borrower, pass the guy's money to Shimon as a shliach of the guy? Ravina Amar neither shlichus l'nachar lesle. True, the guy doesn't have standard shlichus abilities, but but he has some element of shlichus. So basically, a person can be zoicha, can acquire something on behalf of the guy, which works along the lines of the concept of shlichus. You can represent the guy to the point that you can accept something on his behalf. And that's midrabanan. And that's enough in our case, for our case, to allay any ribbis issues. As Rishonim explained that, technically over here, it's not really. Ramban says that really the guy is gaining the ribbis, so it's not really ribbis minat Torah, only the rabbanon. So therefore, if we can somehow work with a rabbinic allowance to allow this to work, it can counter balance the Isser Ribis D'Rabbanan. The Rashba takes on a different approach. He says we know that the Chachamim have the koyach to make something hefker, bezdin hefker, and then once the Chacham instituted this din of Zechiyah L'Nachri, so the money becomes the guy's. Even Minat Torah is considered the guy's. It's not considered Ribis payment to a Yid. In any case, what are we speaking about? Zechiyah D'Rabbanan. That you can acquire something on behalf of the guy, and that even a guy has Islay. How do I know? Midid have cotton, just like a cotton, underage, right? A Yid who is underage, cotton, even though a cotton cannot appoint or become a shliach, and Rashi explains because shlichus is only by an adult, a person has the ability to do truma, because by the truma it says me'ez kol ish, right? So a person has to be an ish, an adult. So bottom line, the whole idea of shlichus doesn't apply to a cotton, but still is the schiyah midrabanan. There's a concept of schiyah. So if an adult picks up an item on behalf of a cotton, it now reverts to the cotton's ownership. Here as well, a Yisrael can do so on behalf of the guy. So basically, the Yisrael, the first borrower, Ruvain, is Zaycha. Sorry, the question of Gersa and Rashi. Who's the one doing the schiyah for the guy? So there's a gersa here that the Shimon, the new borrower, is being Zaycha in the money, right? When Reuven passes the money over to Shimon as the new borrower, Shimon is Zaycha in the money on behalf of the guy. So now it reverts to the guy's owner. It says, it was repaid to the guy, and now Shimon is sort of borrowing anew from the guy, so he's dealing with the guy. He can do ribbis, no problem. That's Ravina's chiddush to address our kasha, how this works. V'loyi, and the Gemara disagrees with this. There's a big difference between a katan who's a Yisrael, who has zechiyah, because Yisrael asl chal shlichus. Yisrael eventually will, when he grows up, will conform to the halach of shlichus, will have that ability, so the Chachamim already instituted some form of semi-shlichus at this early point. But akam by a guy le'asi l'chal shlichus, he doesn't relate to shlichus at all, never. Even when he, right, there's no potential for shlichus, so therefore Chacham did not. We don't find the Chacham instituted any shlichus element when it comes to a guy, so that won't really address our kasha. The only way to really solve our mystery is either that we're speaking that he put it on the floor, the guy instructed him to put it on the floor, and that is deemed repayment to the guy, or the guy himself took it from Reuven, gave it to Shimon, and gave it back to Reuven, who turned around and gave it to Shimon. So in any case, it was an outright loan directly from the guy to the new borrower. Okay, let's summarize today's daf. We discussed the hierarchy, the priority system when it comes to lending money. Right, the number one responsibility is to your closest, to your family, to your neighbors, etc., and to a yid as opposed to a goy. Discussed the element of emunah, trust in Hashem, which is so critical to following the laws of ribis. We discussed the ability of a ger to acquire an eved ivri, the concept of accepting ribis from a ger toishav. We learned about being an arev, to a loan between a guy and a yid. And regarding, we had these two cases regarding money which was owed to either to a guy or from a guy, and then he wants to turn around and lend it further, whether it's allowed or not. And we concluded with the halacha of shlichus, which is specific only to Yisrael and not to a guy. All the best to you, and atzlacha rabba.